René. René is
Hello.
in Berlin, and it's so great to see you, René. So René Barbera is an amazing tenor with a natural tenor voice. I mean, we'll talk about how natural it is. And he's having a stellar career. He sung at the Scala, Paris Opera, I mean, any big house, you name it. René won Operalia, but he won it 3 times. He won 3 of the prize of Operalia.
Yeah.
He's a graduate of the Merrill program in School and Ryan Center in Chicago. You were not in the Met program, were you?
No, I was in the Young Artist program in Chicago, but not the Met. No.
You went not at the Met, yeah. You didn't need it. You just went to this stellar career. And René, now you live in Berlin. So the thing with René is that I've done a lot of these interviews with friends and colleagues in the industry, and these are usually people I've worked with. But as old as I am, and as long as my career is, I have not worked with you, which is a pity. So we usually meet at airports or at the cantinas of these opera houses. So that's why I'm very excited to talk to you. So let's just start this with one maybe little question. You live in Berlin now.
Yeah, sort of. I live about 45 minutes south of Berlin, in Bestensee. It's a small town of 8,000 people, and kind of in the country. There's a lake really close by, and the forest is right next door. Yeah, one of our neighbors is a wild boar.
Oh, good. Does he like
terrifying.
Music? Does he like music?
I don't know. I don't sing at night. You know, the Germans with the Ruhezeit, you can't sing at night, they only come out at night.
So René, you are an American citizen, correct?
That is correct.
And you were you were raised in the U.S. as far as musical education is concerned. What was your first connection with music?
With music? Okay, so my uncles on my mother's side were, and as well as my uncle on my dad's side, we're all musicians, but I only really heard my uncles on my mom's side perform, and they played a sort of Latino folk music. It's conjunto, specifically, and Tejano music, specifically to Texas Hispanics. And so that was kind of my first experience with other people playing music. Actually, I started playing piano first when I was a very young boy. I had one of those little play pianos, and I was messing around with it. And I thought it was really cool. And so I asked my mom, for my birthday, I want to do karate lessons, and I want to do piano lessons. And so I took piano lessons for about 7 years or so before I started singing. And I ended up as a boy soprano in the San Antonio Boys Choir. And that lasted for a while. And my first opera, my wife informed me of this. I want you to know, I, for years, had always said, no, I didn't do any opera at all until I was in my 20s. And, I never even seen an opera until my 20s, which is mostly true, except that I did sing in a mall in The Night Visitors. And it never dawned on me that that's considered an opera.
Aha.
Yeah.
So you were right. And what about, did you take karate still? I mean, that could be useful with some conductors.
It could be useful. It's more directors, I find.
Okay, we'll get into that.
Yeah, no, but I stopped pretty soon after. I think I took karate for maybe a year and a half.
So I was, a lot of people in our industry started as boy sopranos or soprano, girl soprano, I guess is the word, in choruses. And I did that in Strasbourg. I was in the chorus of the cathedral, and we were singing for the opera. And I really got, the virus for opera through that. And I a lot of conductors, a lot of singers have the same path. But the question is, how do you move from boy soprano to knowing that music is where you want to be? And secondly, when your voice changes, how do you know that voice has a potential for fun, art, career, and maybe even success and money?
Yeah, that was tough. So my transition from piano to singing actually was interesting because At the time, when I went to the boys' choir, I was still taking piano lessons. And wait, are you frozen? Oh, you're there. Okay.
No, I'm here.
Um, okay, and I was taking piano lessons at the same time as I was singing when I had started singing. And after my first year in the boys' choir, we got to go to London. And I thought, wow, 1 year of singing, and I got to go to London. But I've been playing piano for 7 years, 8 years, like, and I haven't done anything. Like I got to play piano inside of a Del Mal del Norte in Laredo, but that's nothing. Like what? I think I should stick to singing. This is clearly going to take me in a different way. So that's how I kind of went from piano to singing. Now, from being a soprano to a tenor, I remember getting cold. I had a cold one, and I started cracking, around a B flat below the high C, a tenor high C. And I thought that's very strange. I normally have an octave high. And after the cold, the voice just never came back. And I had a very short, like 1 octave range. I was like, what in the world? And I was
I
the
should go
only
back to the
boy.
piano. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Well, I was the only boy in the all girls choir in middle school. And eventually that was for 1 year. And then the next year, the year that my voice changed, they had created a group choir for boys and girls to be together because of me, essentially. Well, then
Right.
my voice changed, and my music teacher started crying in front of the whole class about the beautiful nature of life and how these puberty and all these things. And I'm just like, I want to die. I can't believe we're having this
Of
conversation in
course.
front of all these people. Uh, and then in high school, I wanted to take my first year off. I said, you know what? I'm not ready to sing in choir anymore. My voice isn't really a tenor voice yet. It's just kind of in a weird place. And
Oh, you say
the
tenor, so you already knew you were not a baritone or a bass. That
Oh
was
yeah,
going to
no,
be a
because
tenor,
I still couldn't sing low to save my life. What ended up
right?
happening is my range just it didn't go any further down. It just went shoop.
Uh-huh.
So I still couldn't sing any lower than what I could sing as a soprano. I just couldn't sing high anymore.
Right.
And so I said, you know what, I'm going to take the time off, blah, blah, blah. Well, the high school choir director knew who I was because I sang the Fore Pie Jesu for the San
Oh,
Antonio
yes.
Choral Society as a boy soprano.
Right.
So he knew who I was. And he saw me in the hallway and I said, hey, how's it going? And he grabs me by the ear and he twists it. He drops me to my knees and he goes, why aren't you in my choir?
Mm-hmm.
And I said, well,
Good.
I decided to take a year off. He goes, no, you will be in my choir by the end of the week. What classes are you taking? And I started listening. He goes, drop history. You can take it another year. So I ended up in choir again. And because he was so he was such a big supporter. I mean, he was very, very positive. And, a lot of conductors in those times, they wanted everybody to be quiet, be uniform, no singing out loud,
Sure.
no individual voices. But I was one of like 4 tenors or something in the group. And there were a number of times when we were working, he would literally just point at me and do
I
this.
need that sound. Yeah. Uh-huh.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
he would just point right at me and just give me more. And so he
But
let me
Rene,
soar in a way that other choirs I had ever been in would not allow.
but I was told that when the voice is changing for a boy, you should not sing too much. That's dangerous for the
Mhm.
voice. You can damage the
Mhm.
voice. Was he aware? Were you aware of that too?
I think he was aware. The thing is, by that point, my voice had already been changed for almost a year at that point. So the voice had already kind of changed, and thankfully,
Mm-hmm.
he wasn't pushing me in a negative way. He was, I sang
Right.
very safely because for my voice soprano teaching, I maintained that the
Mm-hmm.
way of singing. Kind of, I never forgot how to sing kind of healthily exactly. And
Mm-hmm.
so it just kind of transitioned. Eventually, I had a voice lesson or two, but I just remember sometimes he would actually have me sing, and he'd say, "Okay, you and you try to sing as loud as him together,"
Wow.
and they would
Okay.
he would try to get them to come out and sing. Anyway,
Wow.
but he would pull me aside. He goes, you could have a career. You could
Mm-hmm.
have a career as a singer. You should really think about it. I mean, I really, I wanted to have that for myself, but I just, it never happened. But you should really try it. You should do it. And he pushed me
Mm-hmm.
to do it. And with his help, I learned Zweignung and Comfort Ye Every Valley. And I took that to my audition for college, and I got in. I got the
That was
scholarship,
it.
and that was it. Yeah.
And the piano was probably helpful at that point
Oh,
too for your
absolutely.
musical education later. But were you aware that your voice was, because it is, one of a kind, that there was this quality of sound, of position, of resonance that was out of the ordinary? Were you aware of
Mhm.
this right away? Or is it his support that made you aware of that? Or then when you were in college, you start realizing, well, I can do things other people cannot do? How did that work mentally?
It was, I realized in high school that I could do things that other people could not do, especially other tenors. But then again, there was only three or four of us, so I never thought it was really a big deal. I said, okay, well, I'm just louder
Right.
than they are. And I had a couple of voice lessons, and there was this idea of biting the apple, this sort of
Right. Mm.
and then getting it in that place. And at the time, I was very bored because he had me doing Cotton Wheel Band and things like that. I'm like, this is
Right.
boring.
Mm.
I did the Chichester Psalms with for the
Mm.
last choir thing. I want something challenging. I wanted something difficult, something that was going to challenge me musically.
Mm.
Completely unaware of the actual help he was giving me. He was actually a very good voice teacher, and I didn't
Sure.
realize it at the time. And this wasn't my
Sure.
choir director, somebody else. And I quit. I
Uh-huh.
said, I don't want to do this, but I don't want to do it. And I think in the end, having had really good choral conductors who knew how to sing well with choruses, because I had a lot of
Right.
people who talk about, this sort of thing, like sing here,
Right.
sing here, sing here. And for whatever reason, my physical makeup and in my
Mm.
skull and
Your resonance.
allowed
Yeah.
me, yeah, it allowed me to access that and fairly easily, and it didn't really take a lot of coaxing in that regard. And yeah, and then in college, I mean, I don't know, I didn't feel like I was terribly different, and at least early on in college, I did not, and then eventually it started to kind of click when when I had left UTSA in San Antonio, went to the North Carolina School of the Arts. When I got the big scholarship there, and I had actually done a young artist program with Martil Roland in Colorado, and I worked with her briefly, and she said, you got this thing. You should sing this way. You're doing it exactly right. Do not change these things. Whatever
Mm-hmm.
anybody tells you, if they try to change these things about the way you're singing, run away.
Okay. What were your references? Because that's the way I was working as a young musician or singer, or I mean, I never sung after my voice changed, but
Mhm.
I had sound in my mind. This was either Placido, Pavarotti, or James King.
Mhm, mhm.
And so, were you trying to imitate those voices? Were you aware of what they were doing?
Yeah, to some degree. I mean, I listened to mainly Pavarotti, to be honest with you.
Okay.
And that was kind of where I don't know, the way he sang, the way I heard him sing, I could feel that more in my own physical makeup than other people
That's true. Yeah.
that I listened to. And so for me, I said, okay, well, this makes sense. I can kind of understand this. Um, and I just listened to it because it's what I thought that I was the closest thing I could come up with. And
Right.
actually, for a long time, even into my early professional years, I kept thinking, at some point, they're going to realize that I'm just pretending to be an opera singer
Right.
because I'm
Right.
not. I'm just making this shit up. Like
Right. 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 Right.
I'm not
Beep.
really.
Beep.
I'm not.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, I was like, beep.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I'm not. I mean, there's no way in my mind. I'm like, there's no way that that I'm really doing this. This is a joke. Like
Yeah. I'm
I'm
just imitating. Yeah.
fabricating. Yeah, I'm
Right.
fabricating this sound. Like this is not me, and then somehow it stuck.
Mm.
I'm
Mm.
still not always convinced.
Right. Right. Well, but I think fabricating at that level of art is totally okay.
Mhm.
What were musically your goals? I mean, you talk of Pavarotti. So were you dreaming of singing his roles, or were you still using singing as a way to express your general musicianship, what you had to give up as a pianist? Or
That's
it was just,
interesting.
well, it's a voice. I have a voice. It's a job, and I'm going to concentrate on the voice. And the music in itself, was it secondary, or was it the goal too in the story?
So at a certain point in time, it was absolutely the music that was the goal.
Mm-hmm.
That was the goal for a long time, and then something changed along the way. I guess the realization that unfortunately, the number of times in this business that you actually get to make music is very, very small. There's not that many times.
Hmm.
In fact, most of the time it's just get in there, you do the thing, you have to, everything is kind of revolving around the staging and not the music.
Hmm.
And it kind of, for me, it took away a lot of the enjoyment of it. Because for me, making music was amazing and I loved it ever since I was a kid, even with the piano. And, you know, you get those moments where you're kind of in the zone. You know what I mean? And when
Oh,
I was playing piano,
absolutely.
yeah. And when I was playing piano, I would get into that zone. And I remember at some point, if I came out of the zone while I was still playing, I would get lost. I wouldn't know where I was anymore.
Right.
And so I mean, I loved being in that zone. It was something that, and unfortunately, with the way the business operates now, at least in my experience, that hasn't really been something that I get to enjoy so much. And also because I think part of it is all the pressure. You know, there's all this pressure to perform and to be the best, and the repertoire that I was put into. And I say put into because it was not what I expected to sing, Rossini and that's so well specifically Rossini is actually incredibly challenging for me. It's something I had to work very, very hard. So I've never really felt comfortable singing that repertoire. So finding the zone in that situation for me for the first several years of my career were really difficult.
Hmm.
Um, I've had
Okay.
moments of it, but yeah, sorry, go on.
No, no. I think I want to hear when you made the switch to get in the zone and enjoy yourself still. But before you say this, I would say I have a different approach to those issues than you. My goal is absolutely to get in the zone, and not only me, because who cares if I get in the zone? What you want is the
Mhm.
musician to get in the zone and the audience to
Absolutely,
be carried in that zone. And
absolutely.
that is what I'm looking for in any good performance. And I think you, with time, you feel you have it at the beginning of your career, but then it doesn't go through. But with time, you learn how to get that through to people. When you
Mhm.
say, and that's where I would differ from you, is when you say the attention to the staging or maybe even the general pressure of the industry is not helping you getting in that zone. For me, it's a
Mhm.
little different because my first approach to music was always a dramatic approach and a
Mhm.
spiritual approach to music. So
Mhm.
for me, that that climax in a Verdi Requiem is also a dramatic
Oh,
climax. That's talking about
yes,
death, life.
yes.
I'm talking to a God that maybe doesn't hear me or maybe doesn't exist, but still I have
Mhm.
to ask him for something.
Yes,
And
yes.
that's part for me of the musical experience. And of course, it needs to be in tune. Of course, it needs to be together. Otherwise, none of
Mhm.
this makes sense. But that zone has taken care of these other things, and it's all together. So I would say that the dramatic aspect of things has not um, prevented me. On the contrary, for me, it's one of the conduits to it. And actually, with
Mhm.
time, I got more and more interested in more musical, let's say, perfection and music, sheer musical refinement of things. But you are also, you are a wonderful performer. So how did you reconcile of this, and how often now do you get in the zone? And second question that maybe is connected to this, are you getting out of this Rossini or Donizetti fach?
Yes. Okay. So, really quickly though, I want to say before I go into that, you mentioned the Verdi Requiem, and that right there is to me the pinnacle of music. It's
Right,
the thing that when I
right.
get to do it, it is a thing that I absolutely I'm always overcome with emotion when
Well,
I'm
I
singing
just
it.
offered
It's
you a
it's
Verdi
just amazing.
Requiem. You
I
turn
know,
it down,
I
Rene.
know, because I'm gonna be in Tokyo.
Okay, well, that's good.
Next time, next
Maybe,
time,
maybe you will be in
maybe.
Tokyo.
Oh
Yeah,
God, I hope I'm gonna be in Tokyo. If not, well, you know.
right. Well,
But so okay, so the first thing, I guess when I said the staging, I think my issue isn't so much with the performance aspect or the dramatic part of it. It's more with the way staging is handled now,
mm-hmm,
in that it tends to always be the first thing, the most important thing in a lot of
mm-hmm,
productions. You spend far more time working on the staging than you ever do on the music. Unfortunately, there are many places you go, you never have a music rehearsal. So that's one thing. But also then there's the whole regie thing that happens, has been happening, and these stagings that are completely disconnected from the story and the music, and you can't even feel the drama of the show because it's completely disconnected from the music. And for me, that just completely interrupts it. So with regard to reconciling it, it doesn't have, it really depends on who I'm working with and what not even so much who, but what that particular production with that particular staging is going to be like. If it's connected and it makes sense. I've had some really wonderful moments. I've in rehearsals I've cried. And those are incredible moments for me from a dramatic perspective as well. So it just kind of depends. I think that, and I have found that transitioning away from Rossini has actually helped me a lot, getting into that sort of zone again. Because generally the music I'm singing is music I love so much more, and for example, when I sing Adina Credimi or Una furtiva lagrima, those things, when you're in the middle of a production, you're in the middle of the character, you're and it's a good production, and and you're musically stable, and everything is great. It's just there's nothing like it. You get
it's
there.
Heaven.
You just it is. It really is. Sadly, that doesn't happen enough. But maybe it is because now I can't say that for sure because I'm the transition in repertoire has been gradual. I think my last Barbiere Siviglia will be in 2022. And it was kind of accepted. I basically told my agent, December 1st of 2020, I'm no longer accepting Barbiere Siviglia. No more. That was kind of how that went, and so slowly but surely I've been transitioning away more into Donizetti, into Bellini, a little bit of Verdi. Been doing, I've done Traviatas and Rigolettos, and of course the Verdi Requiems. And but I don't want to rush too much to get into the Verdis and Puccini. I mean, of course,
so which Verdi beside Traviata and Rigoletto?
Those so far are the only ones I have done.
Right.
I am scheduled to do, I think, a recording of I Lombardi.
Right.
Soon. Yeah, it's a bit different, but it's a recording. It's in concert, so it's a little different.
Right.
So that's a bit of a leap, but not too much, I don't think.
What about Mozart?
I would love to sing more Mozart. Actually, I have done Clemenza di Tito in English, and I was supposed to do it in Italian, and some issues with visas came up, and it unfortunately didn't happen. I have done Tamino once, which I loved actually, or twice technically. I really loved it.
You'd be a terrific, an extraordinary Tamino. I mean, I hear it.
I love to sing it. Yeah, I love singing it.
You can sing it. You can sing it, with your young Rossinian voice, and you can sing it with your dramatic tenor voice.
Exactly, it's a good transition, actually.
Yeah, and it's something you can keep for a long time.
Absolutely.
So, what about French and German repertoire? The thing is that, from my perspective as a conductor, your voice is so rare in the Italian repertoire, and you need that quality of color and timbre and so on that you don't want to use you in anything else. But
they only call me for Italian.
yeah. But for you, don't you want to touch other languages and so on?
Absolutely. Yeah, I mean, I've been very much interested in doing that. I had a couple of things on the docket at one point to do. For example, this was going to be a bit of a stretch. Pearl Fisher's has not come up yet. I want to really badly sing it.
Of course.
But I almost got to do Damnation de Faust. That was very almost.
And Damnation it's a smart choice, because Damnation was sung, in the past by light voices or by Helden voices,
Exactly.
But what matters is that those high C's are easy and stable, and you have that, obviously. And the rest, if you have a smart conductor, you can navigate it anyway.
Exactly.
And so Donizetti, Verdi, and then what's the possible path, you think? You're going to go in Puccini?
Oh yeah, absolutely. I'm waiting for my Rodolfo. I'm waiting for it to happen. I can't wait. So I think that will be my. Well, okay. So I I did Gianni Schicchi, of course, so
Right.
that's my first Puccini, but I can't wait to actually do Rodolfo at some point. That'll be my first big Rossini, my Puccini, excuse me.
Big Puccinis. How do you prepare for a role? What's your procedure? What's your routine?
So it really depends, honestly, because it depends on, like when I got to do, for example, the Canciones de Lorca, which is not an opera, but it's a piece. I mean, that I took it straight to a pianist. This is by Bolcom. I took
Right.
it straight to
Okay.
pianist, and I said, I need you to help me because this is not quite tonal, not quite atonal. It's very difficult. So
Yeah.
that was another story. With regard to operas that are well known, typically I will start messing with the arias and the ensembles, and the rest it's just kind of on my own. And then at some point I have to sit there and say, okay, let me see what this sounds like, because I need to know. I'm not a good enough pianist to sit there and go, okay, it's 4/4 time, it's quarter note is 120. Okay, I can play this. No,
Right.
so I do have to listen at some point to get a feel for what the tempo
Uh-huh.
would be. What the tempo might be, what the actual sound is going to be like. And then I go straight from the music. I always go with the music first. A lot of people, they do all the translating and things like that. Fortunately for me, with all the Italian that I sing, I don't have to translate so much. So,
Right.
because I mean,
But
I
wait,
speak the language.
so you didn't specify that, and I see you don't talk very much about this in your bios. But
Mhm.
you are Barbera is of Italian origins, right?
No, actually, it's of
No,
Spanish origin. It used to be
Spanish.
Barbera.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah, and so when my great grandfather moved to the United States, they took off the accent.
Okay. Okay. Got it.
Yeah, so
And and
I
and
speak Spanish and also Italian now because of all the work I do in Italy.
you knew Spanish, but you had to learn Italian as you were training as a singer, correct?
Well, no, actually, I learned Italian because I wanted to. I I didn't actually learn it
Uh huh.
specifically for singing. It just kind of happened as I spent time in Italy and fell in love with the language and the people and the culture. And I decided I really wanted to learn it. So I focused my efforts while I was there to practice, and it came together slowly but surely.
Wow. And you say you sung in English. Um,
Hmm.
does that change your technique? How do you adapt this? You still sing with the Italian
Yeah.
technique?
Yeah, I still sing with the Italian technique. I try not to let it get too Americanized. I just try to adjust my diction in such a way that it maintains those Italian vowels. I don't want to go too far into these A's and I's and too many diphthongs.
Right. Right. So now you work a lot in Europe. What what
Hmm.
what decided that move from the States to Europe? Is it because there was more possibilities in your repertoire with the number of houses, or what's behind that choice?
I hired a London-based agency in 2015, and already, once I started working in Italy, slowly but surely, it became, two
Right.
months in Italy to 4 months in Europe to 6 months in Europe to 7 months in Europe, and eventually I realized, I think it was 2016, no, 2017. I sat there and I looked at my calendar and said, I'm not working in the United States for the next year and a half. And so I said, why am I living in the United States? I mean, all of my work is in Europe. It just happened by chance. It was not planned in any way. It's just, I think, because there is so much work in Europe, as compared to the United States, that it just kind of happened that way.
Hmm.
And so I decided to move. And that, actually, I moved, and then I finally found my apartment that I was going to move into. And that's when David called me and said, hey, we might need you for Traviata.
Right.
A month after I left Texas, he calls, and I was like, "Oh my God! Of course you called me a month after I leave."
Yeah, but that's okay. You just hop
Yeah,
in a
no, it was
plane.
great. Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, it
So
was just funny. It
talking
just
of
made me laugh.
hopping in a plane, how have you cope with COVID? How much has it affected your life and your career so far?
Yeah, it has been a nightmare,
Hmm.
I think for most of us. In general, I don't really try. I try not to fly anymore because I have a dog and we travel with her a lot. So last summer, in 2019, in the summer, I bought a car. Um, So with travel, it hasn't really affected me because I mean, this summer I said, I'm not flying anywhere. I'm not going to fly anywhere. So I drove from Berlin to Palermo for my concerts down there. And yeah,
That's
yeah.
a 3 days drive, right?
It was about 4 days because I took my
Yeah.
time because I had the dog. We had to
Right.
stop and I had to walk her, and then she'd get tired, and
Right.
so it was about 4 days. And then I did a concert in Como, and drove down to Como. But other than that, I mean, I haven't really had anything to do, so hasn't really been so much of an issue. And with all that's going on, it's just not worth the risk to me to get on stage and do any staging. Concerts I'll still do because fixed position. You sing out, you're not crossing paths, you're not breathing anybody's area necessarily. I just it feels too risky still. We're so close to the end. I can get a vaccine in like 2 or 3 months.
Right.
Like,
Let's hope so.
if I
Yes.
go and get sick and it hurts my lungs or I die worse, then it's like, well, that was stupid. If I just waited 2 or 3 months, I'd have my whole life ahead of me.
Right. Well, but what I mean, you are optimistic when you say it's going to start again soon.
I hope so.
mean, I think it's we do hope so, sincerely so. But I think even when things will go back to, between quotes, normal, the normal in our industry is going to be a little different. I mean, especially in the US, we have been affected in many ways by this, and all houses are under immense pressure. At least in Europe, you have the government funding, but even there, they are cutting already a little.
Oh, absolutely. I will say, on the plus side, our audiences are going to be some of the first to be vaccinated, because they're most of our audiences in the risk categories.
Yes.
So we should be able to have our audiences pretty quickly, I would imagine.
Right. So
if you think about it, I mean,
no, that's true, and I think it's a matter of confidence, but people want to support the arts, and they are craving for the arts, and they understand, obviously, that it is absolutely essential, and we have been missing something essential. Are you teaching?
Yeah, I've been teaching voice lessons. I only have a few students at the moment, just like 3 or so that I teach every week. But it's been a lot of fun. It's been a different experience, something I've actually wanted to practice doing. And so with COVID happening, I said, you know what? Well, I got time, and I got this iPad. Let's do it.
And so how does that work technically? I mean, for the sound, I mean, and to really feel if the position and the resonance are proper, you just guess it, or how
you can kind of still hear it a lot. You still hear a lot of what's happening. There are some things that you miss out on. With regard to how resonant is the sound that I'm hearing. It's impossible. I mean, you can sort of get an idea, but it's not super obvious. It's always different in person. But there's a lot of things, with vowel position and placement and things you can kind of hear. It's like, okay, there's some tension there. Okay, I can feel that's very tight. Let me see how you're breathing. Things like that you can still visually see, and that's lacking, or that needs some more control or help.
Do you teach a technique that is the technique that was taught to you, or did you articulate things differently because of your own experience, or because you said, well, okay, I hear something is wrong there, how can I fix it? And then you conceptualize it. And how much did that affect your own understanding of your singing?
It's good questions. So it's a little bit of everything. Of course, I resort back to what I know and what I was taught on some level, but I have my own feelings and my own instrument that, of course, nobody else can feel. So when I kind of, as I'm listening to somebody, as I'm watching them sing, I kind of feel what they're doing, actually. And so with that, I say, okay, well, how would I adjust that to get the thing that I want? Because I hear this thing and, okay, did that work? Okay, that didn't work. Okay, let me think of something else. What is an example? Okay, so this is too close. Maybe I can give an example of something that's more open, and work on things like that. As for how it's affected my own singing and my own awareness of it, I don't like how aware I am now. I don't like it because I now, when I start warming up again and I start singing, why am I thinking? I don't like thinking. I don't think. I don't think about these things. I just do. So, but in a way, it's kind of helpful too, because because I started teaching right as it was over. I remember the things that I was telling people. So I still remember. I mean, I was articulating in detail how to sing to other people and talking about how I sing ultimately. And so it's helped me actually be able to go, okay, I'm having a rough day today because I haven't sung in a week. How do I do this? And sit there and say,
Hmm.
okay, start singing. Okay, you know what you're doing, you know what you should be doing. So to get back to that. Oh, you did this too much. Okay, so adjust this way, like just little things there that now I'm aware of that I never would have thought of before because I was always warmed up. I was always singing.
Right, 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 right. Well, you are an extraordinary singer, Rene, and I can't wait to do finally that Verdi Requiem somewhere with you.
Ah, that would be amazing.
Yeah, yeah, and good luck with everything in the pandemic, and we talk
Thanks.
very soon. Thank you so much for your time.
Sounds
It's
good.
getting late in where you are,
Ah,
and
yes.
lots of love, and let's pray for this situation
Yeah,
to be resolved very soon.
yeah.
Thank you, Rene.
Likewise. Thank you. Thank you.